Well, good day. I'm glad you could stop by. Hey, coffee is out in the kitchen. Why don't you pull yourself a cup? Come on back and we'll talk. I'm glad you can make it. I've been working on an interesting idea. I get these crazy ideas once in a while. And you guys probably remember me doing a few videos back when about the endless roll of paper. This is an idea that's probably been done by many people, but it was most popularized by Jack Kerouac when he wrote one of his first drafts for his novel On the Road on a roll of teletype paper. A few years ago I was interested in doing this, and so the only paper I could find was this teletype paper I got off of Amazon, but it's real low quality rag kind of newsprint quality paper. It's really not adequate for sending to anybody like a nice letter. It's just more like rough draft typing kind of paper. And then later on I found in one of my local office supply stores there was a roll 17-inch wide, 50-foot long white art paper that takes typewriter ink pretty good. And what I did is I simply cut the roll in half on a power miter saw to make an 8.5-inch wide roll, which is standard American size letter width paper. And that works pretty good. You do need some kind of a holder to hold the roll of paper, either like a platform behind your typewriter or like my little folding wooden tray table. I put the roll of paper down in the scissor legs with a broom handle across it through the core of the paper, and it seems to work. This was another variation on the same idea. This was a little brass brackets that with a brass rod that goes through, and it clips on the back of some brother typewriters. Not all typewriters work for that. So that was one of the options I had for making it a little more portable. But the problem with that is the whole weight of the roll is on your carriage, and if it's a carriage shifted machine, you're lifting up the entire weight of the paper, and also the escapement and all the other things that move the carriage and control the movement is being labored down with the weight of this roll of paper, which in this case is 220 grams, about half a pound roughly. So I got to thinking the other day about alternatives to scrolls of paper, to rolls of paper that would still give you the ability to have an endless supply of paper as you type. And one of the problems with the scroll of paper that I've had over the years is you don't really know when a page ends. In other words, if you want to, after you have this long thing of writing, if you want to divide it up, cut it up into individual sheets, you'll find that you might be slicing right through a sentence or whatever if you want to get standard lengths of paper out of it. So it would be nice to have something where you know ahead of time where the end of the page is. Now you could, I guess, go take a roll of this paper and just take a ruler and start marking lines every 11 inches or whatever the size of your paper is. But anyways, I'm always wanting to re-engineer things and come up with new ideas. So I was looking at this. This is an AMPAD, which is a commonly available letter writing paper. This is 6 by 9 inches, sort of a standard American size letter writing paper pad, 200 sheets. And I've had this for a few years. This is real kind of thin letter writing paper. It takes ink quite well. It takes typewriter ink really good. It's writing paper. And I got to thinking about, hey, how could you make an alternative way of feeding endless paper into a typewriter with a pad of paper like this? And I come up with a crazy idea. And my idea pertains to the concept of the fan fold paper. You guys remember back in the early days of computers when you had fan fold computer paper? Came in a box. It was folded alternately, kind of accordion style with a perforated edge, and it fed these tractor feed printers, dot matrix line printers that were really noisy. Fanfold paper is kind of gone out of fashion. It's still available. Some printers still use it. But I got to thinking, wow, fanfold paper would be an interesting idea as an alternative to a roll of paper. I was laying in bed one night, and I do a lot of conceptualizing when I'm laying in bed trying to get to sleep. And this probably doesn't mean anything to you guys, but I had some sketches I was drawing, and what I came up with is the idea of a little tray behind the typewriter where you have, let's say, this 6 by 9 inch writing paper. You have a stack of it that's been taped into a fan fold stack, and you have a little holder, and it feeds the paper out onto the typewriter and then back over. I got to thinking, if you had a regular roll of paper like this out behind the typewriter, let's say with a little dowel rod, broom handle, whatever, holding it, the problem is that you need it far enough away from the typewriter so that the motion of the carriage permits the paper to flex back and forth. And with a heavy roll of paper, it doesn't have the flexing ability. But I went ahead and experimented with taping together some sheets of this AMPED into a little fan fold stack to see how that would work. Now, what I started with is I have 3 different kinds of tape. I have a pack of this Pacific Arc drafting tape, and then there is a roll of this artist tape made by Art Alternatives. This is a $10 roll of tape, by the way. I don't know how much this is. The third type of tape was the blue painter's masking tape that you get at hardware stores. I did some tests of it. So the artist alternative tape, well, it actually sticks the most. It looks like you can peel it off, but it would come really close to tearing the paper. The Pacific Art drafting tape releases a little easier without actually tearing the paper. It has a nice texture, but it's kind of pricey. Now, the painter's masking tape is actually the cheapest of these and easily available, and it actually releases. I took about 4 or 5 sheets of this letter writing paper and I taped them together with blue masking tape. And one of the things I discovered is that when you're typing on it and you come up to the bottom of the page, it's easy to see the blue, and it sort of reminds you, it becomes the width of this tape. So this is roughly an inch wide tape. So you have, if you centered it properly on the gap, it's a 1/2 inch on each page. So you have a 1/2 inch border. In fact, I was typing right here, and when I did my carriage return and started typing and noticed I was hitting the tape, I just rolled the carriage up, passed into the next sheet, passed the blue, and continued typing. So it becomes an automatic color-coded marker for when the next page happens, which is really cool. Later on, you can just peel this tape off and separate the pages out of there. To make a fan fold stack of paper, like out of these AMPADs, writing tablets, it's kind of meticulous, and I was thinking there's got to be a better way to assemble the tablet. And what I was thinking of is if you took a tablet like this and took the top 2 sheets like that, and then put a 6-inch wide piece of tape, fold it over, tape the edge, take those 2 away, and then you take the next 2 sheets and do the same thing, and then keep going through the entire tablet. Then you'd have half the edges taped. And then for the other side, though, what you'd have to do is you'd have to tear the pages out of the glued binding to separate them. And on this side, you'd start by skipping the top page and then starting the pairs of paper after it. And you'd end up with a fan fold, kind of accordion-style tablet that would work as a fan fold supply of paper. Then the other thing I was thinking about is, you need some kind of a dispenser. And so what I came up with, of course, I'm always building something. What I came up with is I had a scrap of this laminate flooring, and I cut it to roughly 6.5 by 9.5, so a little bit bigger than the tablet. So this 6x9 tablet fits on it nicely. And then I made a little box for it out of this thin chipboard cardboard and black gaffer's tape. Of course, Joe uses black gaffer's tape. This is about an inch tall gap in here, so it's only 5.5 inches deep, and then there's another section out here open, so it allows the paper of the fan fold paper, the top sheets, to kind of flex back and forth as the carriage of your typewriter is moving back and forth. And I noticed it works a lot better than having the roll of paper behind it. You still have to put it behind it a little bit, but I noticed that it allows only the top few sheets need to move. The rest of the pack of paper stays put underneath it. Okay, so I did a little bit of weighing of this stuff. 8.5 by 50 foot roll of art paper, the scroll, is 220 grams roughly. And this 200 sheet pack of AMPAD paper, 6 by 9 inch paper, including the cardboard binding and everything, weighs 223 grams. This blue tape comes in 60-yard lengths, and if you tape the whole pack together, 6-inch long joints, you're going to need 100 feet of tape. And so 60 yards per roll is 180. So you're going to use about 2/3 of a roll of tape for the entire tablet. But you know, the rolls of tape are really inexpensive. They're maybe $1 or something like that at the hardware store. And the packs of this letter writing paper at discount stores is very inexpensive, only a few dollars. So it's really not that expensive. It's really more about the labor it takes to put it together. Now, again, with the tape and the paper on the whole pack, it will weigh more than the 8.5 inch roll of 50 foot long paper. But in the case of the roll of paper, it wants to kind of move the whole roll. Unless the paper is really far away, the roll is far away, like down underneath the tray table on the legs. But if it's out on the desk behind the typewriter, it wants to kind of move that whole roll, and it's pretty heavy. Whereas when you have it accordion style fan fold, it's only the top few sheets that actually want to move, and so it actually ends up being really lightweight as far as the typewriter. The kind of load that the typewriter sees on it is pretty lightweight. So I'm going to start by, instead of just taping the edges first, I think I'm going to start by pulling a bunch of the paper out of the glued spine, so I don't have to do that afterwards. And I don't think I'm going to do the entire pack. I could, maybe. It depends upon how much I'm wanting to sit here and just tape things down. There's half the pack approximately. I don't really know exactly how many sheets that is, but that's a good size pack of paper to turn into a scroll. I've clamped the back spine of this pack of paper with a couple bulldog clips, and I'm going to use this graduated scale on my cutting board. I'm going to put the edge of the tape, in this case, to the 10. I cut it at the 4, which is 6 inches. Cuts real easy. I can see the paper underneath the tape. The tape is translucent, so I can get the idea of the halfway point. I peel the top sheet up. I peel the next sheet below it, get the ends centered, and I just fold, and I kind of lay it down like that, and fold it over, and just try to get it folded like that, and then weight it down, and continue like that. Start at my line, cut it at the 6-inch mark. Doesn't have to be super precise of a cut as long as it's the right length, but fold that up. And you know, this is a little bit laborious, but when you get a system like this going, it's certainly a lot quicker than trying to cut it with scissors, and you never can be that accurate with scissors when you need to be a certain length. And I think it's possible to build up some good speed doing this. Now, of course, you're going to be building this pack of paper ahead of time, and you wouldn't be doing it right before you wanted to write. You would probably build this up ahead of time when you don't have anything else to do. Instead of watching some mindless TV show or surfing the internet until the odd hours of the morning, you could just be doing this. Well, so that was really pretty quick. I was surprised how that went. So look at that. There's what is it I say, 44 sheets of fan fold paper made up from approximately, that's a little bit less than half of this, of course, a quarter of it maybe. But anyways, there you are. Let's go put it in the dispenser pack and see how it works, shall we? So this little pack, this little holder pack, looks very convenient. I've taped that first experimental section of, 4 sheets or whatever. I've taped it to the new section. So I'm just going to lay it out back here. and center it up on the middle of the typewriter carriage, and then I'm going to take the existing old stuff and thread it in to this Olympia SF. I can basically slide the carriage back and forth, and just the part of the pack that's coming out now moves. The rest of the pack doesn't move. Now let's advance it so that there's more paper falling behind the box there. And now you have the type stuff on top of the new stuff being fed, but it looks like it's not really interfering. It looks like it's still working okay from what I can see. Well, I really like the idea of this alternative method to the scroll, the roll of paper. I like this idea of a fan-fed pack of paper coming out of a little dispenser box. I'm going to have to try using this for a while now. I mean, this is just a new thing I just came up with, but this might work okay. You know, the amount of work it took to actually put this together was a lot less than I thought it would be. Once I got into the rhythm, yeah, this is going to be an interesting experiment to see how it works. Well, until next time, you guys have yourselves a great day and stay creative.